Friends, family, and survivors. Well, these Tesla batteries, I think that the cost per kilowatt is $233 per kilowatt. They're 3 kilowatts each. I paid $625 plus the BMS, we'll call it $700 per module. That's $3,500 for 15 kilowatts. Brings it down to $233 per kilowatt. And there's better prices today, but not at the time that I bought these. The time I bought these, that's an amazing deal. Some folks are able to put some cells together, some LiPo4s together, under $200 a kilowatt with BMSs included, but that wasn't available at the time that I went with Tesla. I certainly would have gone with lithium iron phosphate in a heartbeat if I could have afforded it at the time we got these batteries. Prices come down a whole lot, and it is what it is. I started out with these. I got a really good price at the time, and one of the reasons why I went this way is because the voltages were right. I'm a 24 volt system, and 7S configuration fits my Magnum inverter way better than the 6S Teslas, which were the 5.2 kilowatt packs. And like I said, the lithium iron phosphate just simply wasn't affordable at that time, which has been a couple years ago now. So these, I only ran these for 6 months. We decommissioned the system, and it's been waiting to reinstall on the mountain. So essentially, since I installed them in the spring and they ran through the summer, they were only carrying a 2 kilowatt load overnight, so they were not used aggressively at all. And they have been paralleled now for many, many months. And so we've got a good equalization going on all of the packs. And all of the BMSs are the same. And I do have active balancers as well. Now, would I do something different today? Absolutely. I would go with lithium iron phosphate in a heartbeat, because these have the risk of thermal runaway if you don't run them correctly. These burst into flames and you can't put them out, they'll burn underwater. That's not a good thing. So lithium iron phosphate is way better than lithium ion NMC, which is nickel, manganese, cobalt, I believe. So I would have done it way, way different if I had a chance to do it over again at today's prices. The other thing that I would do is, obviously, Dali BMSs, they worked great, but they were dumb. You couldn't tell what they were doing. They did their job, but you couldn't tell. Now the Dali makes a BMS that's smart, that has Bluetooth, that's configurable. And that would really, really be handy, because these BMSs balance at 4.2 volts per cell. And I'm never going to run these batteries that high. So in other words, if I had a balance issue, what I would have to do is come in and manually change all the charge parameters to 4.2 volts and let them sit that way for a day or two to correct any kind of imbalance problem that I have, and then go back to my regular charge profile, which is 4.04 volts per cell, or 28.3 volts nominal. So yes, I would do everything different if I had today's prices with lithium iron phosphate, and go with probably a 7S configuration. I could go as high as an 8S configuration because the voltage is a little bit lower with the lithium iron phosphate. So I wouldn't do this. Don't go with Tesla unless you know what you're doing. Even though every individual cell, these aren't 2170s, these are 18650 individual cells, and each one has its own fuse. And if they go low resistant, they'll pop their own fuse. That limits the thermal runaway. But the other thing that you have to do with these batteries is you've got to go ahead and hook up the environment system. And that way you can cool or heat the batteries if you need to. And here's the problem that I have found with going with Nissan Leaf. And if you're in a place with the Nissan Leaf batteries, they're also NMC. I think they're kind of like these foil packs inside those cans. The issue with those is the reason why the Nissan Leaf batteries fail early compared to the Teslas is because they don't have an environment control system. So if it's hot outside, the batteries get hot. If it's cold outside, the batteries get cold. With a Tesla, it doesn't work that way at all. So one person referred to it as a tent battery. What did he mean by a tent battery? The Nissan Leaf, differing from a Tesla, is like living in a tent. Now, a few days out of the year in a tent, the temperature's just right. If you have 70 degrees outside, you've got 70 degrees inside. But if it's 20 degrees outside in a tent, you got 20 degrees inside in a tent. Conversely, if it's 110 degrees outside, you got 110 degrees inside. So if you don't have a thermally controlled environment management system, then they're subject to the environment. And so in some regions, the Nissan Leafs, they fare really well. But compared to the ones that have control systems, like the Tesla, like the Chevy Volt, the Nissan Leaf Fax, that's why generally when you buy them used, they have about 40% capacity left. That's why. The degradation came from poor temperature management. So in that case, with EV batteries, there's no question the Tesla shines big time. If you're using EV, and you know, some of you guys have really successfully used Nissan Leafs, but most of the ones that I've seen that are successful with Nissan Leaf, they have huge systems that are taxed very, very lightly, and they're in an area where the temperature is controlled very, very well. And they're running flawlessly, no problems. But other people are having problems with them. And so if that's the case, I'd stick with Chevy Volt would be my number one if I'm going with an EV battery. And number two, I would go with the Tesla. And I know there's others out there. LG Chem's making some stuff. Mercedes has some stuff now, and BMW's got some good stuff. But again, I would shy away from Tesla because the bottom line is if you overcharge these packs, then you've got a fire. If you over discharge them, you have a fire. Isn't that great to have a battery that catches on fire if you overcharge it or undercharge it? So yeah, you definitely want to make sure you've got a lot of safety protocols in place. When I install this system, I'll talk a lot about that. I would really like to go with lithium iron phosphate if I can find a way to afford it. I like the ones that we put in the fifth wheel. Got an awful lot to set up on the mountain, and another $10,000 in batteries would be difficult to do at this time. So we're going to put these into service and do the best we can for as long as we can. All right, that's probably more than any of you needed to know. Hope everybody's having a very, very blessed day.